It being 9 a.m., we'll call the meeting in order. Pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Second on the agenda would be approval of the agenda. I'd like to add some discussion or authorization for roof paint, or not roof painting, but the trim work being done. I was informed that they're finishing up and we're gonna get nibbling into the contingency fund, and Bess will have us some numbers later on, so I'd like to add that so that we can get the work done soon.
Right after our action items.
That'd be on the action item, yes.
Oh, you're gonna have an action item?
Yeah, because it's gonna be authorization to expend.
Oh.
That's the only thing I'd like to add.
You want to add that to consent agenda, right?
I'd like.
Action
Action item. Yep, action item. Be number 5 action item. Any other thoughts
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
with the change? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Against, same sign. Approved. Approval of the May 2nd, regular meeting. Looking,
I'll second it.
who's first there?
Greg.
Greg, okay. Motion made and seconded for the discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. At this point, we have public comment. Anybody wish to have public comment for the board? If so, come forward. Nobody on TV. So come forward and identify. Otherwise, come on up. Sure.
Yeah, I was here, I don't know, get it in a month and a half, or
Yep.
whatever.
Name those again.
Howard Lambert.
Okay.
With the Peace Church on there by between Freeburg and Reno.
Yep.
Wondering, I was told that you guys want us to pay for putting a fence in around our cemetery. This is a picture which my guy wish, want me to bring it up there.
Sure. Take a look at it.
This is the fence you guys took out. When you guys did the project.
We took this out, you say, this chain link fence,
That fence took out, and then nothing.
and when was that? Excuse me?
I think it was back in.
I think our discussion was that we were going, if you wanted to put a fence back in, you could, but there was gonna be no cost sharing from the county on that, but that's your option, whether you wanted to put up a fence or not, on your, if it's off the right of way. I mean, I think that one was taken out because it was on the right of way.
Okay.
Brian? Yeah, because guardrail was discussed, and then we got down to the fence, and chain link fence is what it was, it looks to be.
What do you mean? Guardrail would be.
Well, Brian has all those figures, he's not here this morning.
I don't know.
In our discussion at, we had a meeting for it was Bob and I. Our discussion was that there was no, we couldn't see a need where the guardrails had to be put in. There wasn't the qualifiers to it qualified to have a guardrail put in. So, and then there's only one kind of garden rail that could be put in, and now it's that they don't advise the cable ones anymore. It was the regular guardrail if it was gonna be put anything in there. And so I think it was. We just had a discussion that if we were gonna, that kind of a project would not qualify for a guardrail in that area.
What, because of on the traffic.
The steepness of the slope and the
Last
curvature.
week after our meeting, Brian showed us a map and he
Yep.
showed the grade in the corner. And it had the slopes from where the corner is by the front of the church, by where the headstones are. It didn't get until you got further down where it qualified for the state guidelines and how much slope that would qualify for a guardrail. So it was outside of the area where your photo was taken there. Then he talked about the 3 or 2 wire cable fencing that used to be put up. And I guess that doesn't meet the safety standards for that type of area compared to how it was back then. So they actually don't even recommend putting that up there. So then what Brian proposed to us is someone who's gonna reach out to you, so maybe that letter hasn't gotten to you yet or whatnot. That if you wanted to put something back up, as long as it was outside of the road right away, that he had no problem with a chain link fence as long as it didn't have the top post, because there's some sort of a ruling with safety. With
Top
the
bar.
top bar or whatnot on there, there's some sort of a rule of safety with that because would be right close to the road right away. So there was some verbiage that he was gonna be sending to somebody from the church board that he brought up, and I think you caught just the end of that conversation.
So if we got, that is right away the road.
It'd be close in that area, yeah, it's been a while since I drove through there, but
Watch it. But that would be down there a ways below there, which is kind of. We're walking,
there,
and by the time you hit the fence, you're really going down. So, I was told this morning by my brother that someone had hit that particular fence many years ago. Never reported. They fixed it. Supposedly that guy. The guy went.
Well, you'll be getting a letter because Brian was gonna work up a response to you guys, so.
Describing
and that was last week, Tuesday. After the meeting. He agreed to sign.
okay, you're part of the group here.
Maybe you should sit back here.
That's
so
where we
people-
can see it.
If you sit over here, then people can hear you and see you on the.
Want me to sit?
Well, either way, because it's recording there.
Just to clarify, I may be the one or one of them that Brian would have sent communication with. I'm Dave Winnis, and I'm simply a member of that church, Peace Church. After the last meeting, he had sent me a summary of his thoughts. So, and I haven't, as of last night, I haven't received anything yet from Brian. I just wanted to clarify that.
Apparently, it was discussed in committee and then looking at the needs and ramifications and the amount of incidents on that particular road, the grade. There's a lot of discussion was done to get to give a reason for yeas or nays on it. So I guess when you get that letter and if you wish to come back at our next meeting and talk about that, but I believe it's been answered, or at least from our point.
One question on that grade. This is just a question of criteria. What what percent of grade is the tipping point? Sorry for the pun, but
That'd be an engineer's idea.
I mean, Brian was looking at some guidelines, I'm sure.
Yep.
That it so much percent
I
or,
just remember in the. Or it would qualify for a guardrail is way past the cemetery. Because of the grade.
way past.
Was it east or west? It would
Go
be
east
east of the.
Yeah. So
Oh.
it wouldn't do no good as far as the cemeteries.
Mhm. Okay.
I guess that's,
And Howard, you said that. Place, somebody's gone off the road there.
Yeah. Well, it was hit when the fence was, that fence was there. It was hit once many years ago. And then, now the guy went over the bank here, what, year and a half ago or whatever. Nothing there. Stop it. So, lucky he didn't end up down there on top.
Yeah, in that case, he had ended up right at the front door of the church and he had knocked down, we have an arch there that he took out with his vehicle. So he was able to keep it from falling down that time, falling further down into the cemetery, but
Or. Yeah, 200-foot span there. We are concerned about it. That's where to go over that.
the other thoughts? Questions? I guess wait for the letter.
There's just certain safety guidelines that the engineer has to go by and. That's what we're trying to do here. And. There's plenty of other areas where. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, where do you start and where do you stop? So.
we only have areas that would be have more of a need by the criteria that he uses. That aren't done yet, you mean?
Not anticipated dually, I don't think.
Right. Because they don't meet the qualifications either. So.
I've driven from like between here and Freeburg. And it looks like several places that guardrails could be put up and everything. What you know, you get, drive off, you'd end up in somebody's field. Or go over the bank and hit a tree. Or you end up in a cricket pick. In our case, end up on food stalls. Important as far as what we're trying to protect. Who cares about their tree that got hit? But then or keep props to cut this road. I guess you guys gotta go by guidelines. Supposedly. We'll wait for his
Brian's letter and explanation, and then you can come back.
Like I say, there's guidelines, there's a number of incidents, you know, you're saying 2 incidents and covering how many years? There are some roads that I'm very familiar with who have multiple incidents a year. And they don't have guardrail up because of the slopes. Okay, but the slope is such that, you know, unfortunately, there's some objects, monuments are on that slope. But like I say, we go by what state has its guidelines and ideas, and hopefully Brian will be able to explain it better than us, better than me at least. So you get the prices too.
Is this something you had voted on already,
No,
or there was no motion made?
There was no action on it.
no action, no recommendation yet because
Nothing was put on the agenda.
and he was supposed to get prices so we would know kind of what prices are and stuff. I have not,
I would assume he's still working on that. You could always call over the office.
He's got an office.
Oh, yeah. He's in that new building that we've got out by the fairground.
Yep.
725-3925.
Anyway. He's the contact.
Guess we'll have to go with that. See what he has to say.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you for your
consideration.
Do you want that picture back?
Here's a picture here too.
See you next time around.
Yep.
Those are kind of older pictures, so still black and white is there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? The public comment. There being none, going on to appointments. We have no appointments. Consent agenda, there are 5 items on the consent agenda. It's the feeling of the board. Any question or comment?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Further discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. Moving on to the back page, action items. First one is consider approving an IUP for Mary Lou Graff to have a temporary farm dwelling in Brownsville Township. Marty.
Right.
Morning.
That is an interim use permit for Mary Lou Graff. What she's doing is her son is going to live in the house, and then she's going to put a mobile home back in a location that previously had a mobile home. It also had water and septic there prior, and so the interim use permit would be for the duration of the time that she's still actively farming, which meets the code requirement for that, is the idea behind it. And we did grant a variance for it because of its proximity to a feedlot. They have feedlot as well, but this is the neighbor's feedlot variance was granted for. And that's already been done. So that's basically the extent of it. And her son's just moving into the house, and it's just the idea of trying to, maintain agricultural activities.
It's a family farm.
Back in the day. Her father-in-law. Back.
There was no issues with the neighbor feedlot because if it expanded, it'd go the other way, I understood.
The neighbor's feedlot, basically the neighbor called and said he would support her variance in terms of
He
where
didn't have
they're,
a problem with.
Since they got one of their own.
yeah, and I don't know as though either one of them are real active, but as far as that goes.
Well, the neighbor, he'd have to go to the south and build, then come this way.
If he wanted to expand.
He wanted to expand, he'd probably be out of the feedlot range if he went the way he's supposed to go.
It's,
Can't come this way.
yeah, I mean, it's 1320 is the separation distance, and I think they're at 790. So it would be a ways that they would have to shovel.
And as long as they understand that the interim is on the basis of family and family.
Right, and that's,
For non-family.
yep, and that's where the language of the farming part comes into it.
Well, that's it. I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2, consider approving resolution 23-21 declaring a state of emergency for conditions resulting from the ongoing Mississippi River flooding conditions that started in April 17th of this year. Morning.
Morning, Commissioner. Yeah, just asking for that resolution to allow them to qualify for some disaster funds. The threshold for Houston County is $41,831.46. And as of yesterday, City of La Crescent gave me a preliminary number of $43,950. So they did appear to be just over that, but those could go up or down yet, but we will try to move forward with that then.
Any other areas in the county that,
Nothing else that I was given. I sent an email out to Brian asking more, wondering about Wildcat, but I never heard back.
He brought that up in our land use committee. He said that it was too early to tell yet. And couldn't give a good estimate of if there was gonna be any.
So if basically, I think down there, there could be debris removal or some damage to the park and rec.
The
if they
biggest worry
qualify.
was the sand fire, beach sand
Yeah.
stuff.
So if we get this passed and we qualify through for a state disaster,
He could still.
you could still get on there. I would have to be over $3,800 worth of
Yep.
work that would need to be done there. So I can keep in touch with Brian.
Yeah, you do that because as the water keeps going down, you'll have a better idea.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve that resolution.
No second. that.
discussion. There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carry. Number 3, consider approving Crest bylaws. Crest is a regional collaborative. Regionally collaborative in southeast Minnesota that coordinates mental health services in the region.
Morning.
Morning.
This is kind of a routine thing, but I thought I'd run it by since perhaps some of you haven't heard kind of the spiel on Crest. It's as the agenda item mentions, it's a 10 county southeastern Minnesota collaborative approach to adult mental health services. The state funds adult mental health initiatives for southeast Minnesota. This is the one that we are part of. It's been in place since 1996. And periodically we have to go through bylaws and just make sure that everybody's still on board. Pretty much when we went through these bylaws, it was updating language to be current with current practice, not major changes. As I mentioned in our committee this morning, the biggest change is the establishment of an executive committee. There's a directors group, so the human services directors from each of those 10 counties are kind of a governing body that allocate resources and work with providers in the region. That's where some of the crisis stuff that we've worked on has started at the press table. So anyway, with the 2 things through the pandemic, we didn't meet in person. We also had quite a bit of turnover, both with directors as well as our coordinator for the program and the coordinator for our mobile mental health crisis person in the region. That coupled with a lot of COVID related funding that's coming to these adult mental health initiatives, we felt that we needed a smaller group of directors to kind of help support the new coordinator and keep our ball moving. So the executive committee that was established is the chair, vice chair, and then an at-large person. The chair rotates, as does the vice chair alphabetically. Currently, it's Goodhue County, making Houston County the vice chair. So I fill that role. So I am currently participating in that executive committee and trying to kind of get our feet back under us and moving forward with that initiative. Today's action is to approve revised, updated bylaws.
It's participation from the county and the other 9 counties. I mean, all of them are gonna have to approve the bylaws.
Correct.
Comply.
Mhm.
By
And
having the executive committee, you are gonna streamline some of the operations as far as investigation and checking
Correct.
things out. And then making a
Recommendation.
recommendation to the entire board.
Correct. And this bylaws is required to be able to have those adult mental health initiative resources flow through the region and then to the county.
Required by the state.
Correct.
Good. All that said, I'll make a motion to approve the new bylaws for the Crest initiative with regard to the Southeast Minnesota coordinate mental health services in our region.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second. that.
Other discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carry. Number
All right, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Number 4 is consider approving the use of St. Mary's parking lot during the Houston County parking lot construction project. Cost to be $500 per month. Burns.
It's anticipated that the actual project time is gonna be 2 months by the time they open it up, tear it out, get in the rock, get in the concrete work and whatnot, and then wait for the paving, so it's more efficient when they're doing some paving on the streets as well. If it is only 1 month, it'd be $500. If it goes into 2 months, it'd be another 500, total of $1,000 max. The only question would be it's a little over 50 parking stalls, which is more than what we have in the west lot. The only thing would be that, you know, like in this lot, the sheriff's department and whatnot parks some vehicles down in the corner on a permanent type basis. Would not want to put those vehicles over on the church lot, so they're there 24/7. It would be for working time as far as the parking lot use, Monday through Friday. 8 to 4. 8 to 4, whatever time they get.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second the motion.
Further discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay, carried. Well, you. Number 5, Tess will inform us of the painting project. I was informed of what's going on. Painting is going on for the trim and finishing up the roof lines. You can explain it better.
Good morning, commissioners. The roof project, as I sent a memo out, is nearly completed. The inspections that are being performed by Collaborative Design Group Engineer are going well. I asked the contractor if he would provide us with a quote to complete all the painting for the building, since they have the, I believe they'll have at least one lift remaining here while they finish up the tower, which is the only part of the project they really have left. And that quote came back at $12,500 for the lift, and I think it's a crew of, I believe it's a crew of 3 and the materials. We have $9,926 left in the contingency. So basically today we're asking for $2,500 further to complete all the painting on the building. Our crew,
What painting, what part of the roofers did up around
the paint crew did up around, yeah.
Yeah.
A separate paint.
what other parts?
All the second story, all of the,
Windows?
all the windows, all the trim. They did already, as they were coming down, repainted the face of the, that had been previously painted. That was the carved stone, identifying the building as the Houston County Courthouse. So it's all of the rest of it. There is second floor, first floor, the annex, the part that pops out on the south side, and the lower level windows. So there's quite a few, actually, not just windows, but a trim and doorways. And we'll have the arch that we had previously painted as a slightly different shade of brown. We can have that completed as well. So it's all one complete package that everything matches.
The building have uniform. Yep. As far as the color of the paint, around the windows, around everything else.
So when you say contingency,
You had
our
original,
bid was 174.
and we had a contingency of 20%. We used part of that contingency when there were some things discovered because,
So there was a change order from them?
yes, for 25,000. We used 25,000 of that contingency.
Because of 2 layers of shingles.
2 layers of shingle and a bit, the demolition on that, the disposal, you know, we couldn't really, you didn't really know what you were dealing with until you got up there in the middle of it.
Plus, we saved, well, we came in less than approved on the toilets and the redo of the bathrooms and stuff like that, so there's funds available, and then,
That was being paid with our.
yeah, that's the point. The thing too is that we got the building to clean up, and looking good, and I think, this
It
came in,
makes sense to have it look uniform through.
exactly.
And the cost of the lifts, just if we had to rent lifts and somebody, those are. The lift we have for cleaning windows doesn't go that high. It's one that we use inside the Justice Center.
She wants $2,500.
2,500.
Make a motion that we approve $2,500 to finish the roof on this building here.
Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second it. Further discussion?
The question I'd have is, by adding this to the action items, are we supposed to add things to the action item, or are they supposed to be on there so that the general public can have a chance to see it before we take action? You know what I mean?
Well, we've had other issues come up that we
Yeah.
voted on.
Doing it all the time, though, but.
We,
Typically, going forward, ideally, we would not be adding anything to the agenda the day of. But
The action.
but we have done it,
agenda
and
at all. Consent or action. But we have done that in the past, so.
where something came up, and
And if the commissioners are uncomfortable doing this, I understand. I can look to the maintenance budget and
Well, you,
try to work something out of the maintenance budget.
we put away 50,000 out of ARPA for the toilets, so we have a $7,000 there yet. Like,
Well, and let me,
could use it toward the-
We could have put it on the regular, whatever.
I don't think the issue is about the money or.
No.
So anyway, there's a motion on the floor.
yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried.
thank you,
We're
commissioners.
done.
Thank you.
Okay, takes care of action, takes care of consent, going down to discussion. Actually, nothing exciting since last Tuesday for me, so. Nothing to report at this time, here,
Yeah, I don't have anything either.
okay.
Bob, you got some stuff.
Oh, yeah, you get the page open here.
All right. Yesterday, we had visitors from the Houston and Spring Grove School. They have a court classroom, and they sent over the students from Spring Grove and Houston to have a visit in the County Justice Center. Met with the judge, met with the sheriff and the sheriff's office personnel, met with emergency management, met with the court administrator, met with the county attorney. I took them for a tour of this building and showed them the inner workings, you know, as far as the auditor and the treasurer and the reporter and everything, how that all worked and came together. Then they went back to the County Justice Center and had their lunch in the basement in the EOC room. And we talked about county government, what it meant to be a commissioner, how to get to be a commissioner, and the variations between township. As it happens, the guy that drove the bus, Mike Wisty, is on the township board, so he had input as far as the township. We talked about city government, county government, and, you know, that being the closest thing to the people as far as getting hold of somebody in government. Then we talked about the state and the Fed a little bit. And then they went back to school. But it was 3 hours that they were here, so it's the longest classroom experience that
Yeah,
they've ever had. Nice.
I mean, interesting, though.
It was interesting. For me,
Was that-
too.
Was that advertised or was that,
Uh,
how did that come about?
the judge set it up.
Oh,
It's happened in the past. It's the first time that county board members been involved. Usually it's just been,
yeah, because I never heard about it. I just never.
she just sent me the invite and said, well, you're in Caledonia.
Yeah, it's,
I just never heard of it.
you're the closest person. You got some kids through the week before too, didn't you?
No, that was the same group. They canceled the week before and came yesterday. So that was interesting. Last night I had a meeting with the SEMCAC board meeting over in Casson and talked about the goings on with Casson, the various audits. SEMCAC has multiple divisions that provide funding for various things, be it housing, be it food, be it senior dining, be it, what, all the different aspects. Each one gets its own audit, and then there's a general audit of the homework. So they're in the middle of that kind of an audit. And we looked at their various budgets. The only budget that really has any problem is kind of like the food budget, because the cost of everything has gone up so much, so it's hard to keep that budget in the black. But it'll be like everything else. At the end of the year, you make your funding adjustments in order to come about. They did have one report that the state of Minnesota provides them for housing, which is the monies for people that, maybe they're getting a voucher for motel, maybe they're getting some of their rent paid, maybe they're getting some of their mortgage paid to keep them up to date so they can stay in their housing. They had prior budget, I believe it was $540,000, and now they're anticipating getting $2.3 or $2.4 million for the same thing. So there's a big increase in the dollars available. And if they've been getting by on 5.4, the question was, is this going to draw a lot more people into Southeast Minnesota because they got so much more money? But I think every region is going to get a big influx. I think it's out of the 17 billion, but every region is going to get a big influx of dollars for the housing situation. Then I got to check. I can't remember. Am I still on the Trails Committee?
I think
so. Sorry, you are? Okay. Then I'll give you the letter. There's a Smart Trails Committee meeting coming up. There. And that'll be up to you to report on that. Finally, we had our community services meeting this morning. The VSO report. Snowbirds are back. So it's increased his workload as far as people getting back up to date with where they are on their benefits as far as being a veteran. It's no major policy changes, it's just keeping things up to date. There's a new vet cemetery being built in Minnesota. That's going to make a total of 5 veteran cemeteries in the state. And the Preston Nursing Home is coming along. Rob has done his state training, and now there's national training coming up in June. But that national training this year is in Madison, so it's fairly close to home, so he'll be able to go to that. The Bonanza plans are coming along for this fall. Of course, like everything, they plan to make it a little bit bigger, a little better advertised, a little better notification to people. And the lacrosse, the new VSO or veteran service officer in lacrosse is coming on the line. He was new and green, so he's learning the system and he's doing a good job of getting into the swing of things. John was talking to us with regard to our consent agenda with the guardianship and the annual approvals. This is a late one, but each guardianship has to be approved annually for our review and their support. They have a search for a child support officer. We also had that on our consent. We talked about Crest. We've done that. As far as personnel, you talked about some of the changes in personnel as far as child support and the rebanding. When we have our meeting in 2 weeks with Carol regarding the budget aspect of these rebandings and what it's going to mean in cost to the department. But in John's conversation, the 2 people that he's talking about, the county's share is about $3,000 a year. So if this is for 6 months, it'd be a $1,500 difference in this budget from what is in the budget to what it's going to take. That's what he said. We'll talk with Carol about that at finance to make sure we're right on what the rebanding means and how that all fits before it comes back to us for approval. He's going to the Maxa conference in Alexandria at the end of the month. And they wait until after the legislative session is over, so they have their Maxa meeting and they know what the legislature actually did. Both pro and con as far as health and human services are concerned, so he'll have that meeting. He did talk about some of the things that they're talking about as far as like $15 million to public support, split out amongst the 87 counties. Emergency services, $25 million for a one-time system modernization update. So those are things that are being projected. The Senate has a cost share mental medical criteria placement bill, which is going to have a bearing on how much the county has to pay, because the state says it's the county's responsibility, even though they make the demand. So they're looking at that. And then he talked about the weed bill and the House version versus the Senate version and how that's got to be put together to combine.
The cannabis.
Yeah, the cannabis and some of the things, you know, about how many distributors or places to buy are you allowed? Is it based on population? Is it based on area? Or is there no regulation and you can have as many as people want to have? And then whether or not CBD, the bill that was prior approved, should come under the auspices of the THC bill that they're passing, so that both of them kind of meld together. Some people say yes, some people say no. Kind of just how the way things, yes, no. So those are some of the things he talked about. I got a full page of notes, and that was a quick summary. And
That's it. Rick Trope.
So I was invited to the town board meeting for La Crescent Township. They had the developer Sextower, basically gave them a proposal, a preliminary stuff. He, I guess, is working with Marty and the DNR and other people for some hurdles. So it was more just kind of informing them what his plans were at a public meeting. There was no actions taken by them. But it was brought to my attention and wanted me to bring it forward. And I did mention it to Marty at the land use meeting. They're a little concerned about up on Crescent Hills yet with the vacant lots that are in the Horse Thief addition. There's 4 property owners that are, as a coalition, going to be petitioning the city to move those lots into the city possibly, or have them annexed. That way they can hopefully build. Pretty adamant that, you know, that when they were purchased, they wanted them for buildable lots and pursue that. So,
Will make sense.
but
Mhm.
spot zoning, I mean, they're gonna annex, are they gonna annex a strip all the way up to these lots? Are they gonna annex the whole area and those lots are part of it?
Jump.
It's a jump is what it is, because there's no connection to the city.
And there's no city sewer or water provided to it.
So,
So
Been happening.
Well, there's this development. on North.
Here in this part.
Only one. way
But-
to get it.
There you go.
most of the
Right.
orderly annexation though has been because of sewer and water.
and a lot of that is done from the city though. These are individual owners or lot
Particularly-
owners that are working together to try and.
Yeah.
Because they want to build in their lots.
What I've seen in the past on them is that they bought too small lots. That's their problem. They haven't got enough, yeah.
There's too much grade and too small a lot, it's a combination.
I think the grade is what gets us with.
Yeah.
So,
That's, I think,
I think the grade, you got no place to put this.
Yeah.
Well, how much say does the county have in that? If the city says we'll annex that, do we have the ability to annex that? Or do we have to let them annex?
But it's jumping. It's
I
not
understand
even,
that.
yeah, and there has to be something in the book, isn't there?
Right.
So nothing.
On the ordinances, you mean? Yeah, you're
Well-
gonna have so much area for your septic and your house and all that, and that's the problem they're all running into up there, is whoever sold them the lots told them they could build on 3/4 of an acre, and it isn't working up there. And that's the whole problem that I can see from the variances that I've been in, the findings that I've been involved in, is that all the lots are just too damn small, and now I know one guy's trying to buy up 4 lots so he could put a house on the 4 if he had enough room. But I mean.
I think that they, from what Tom was saying, Tom's one of them, owns a lot, that they can have, their septics are big enough, it's the slope rule and is where they were.
Toe the
getting-
bluff and slope.
Right. And if they get the city to annex it, they can evade that.
So would they put in sewer and water then the city up there?
No, they won't, because there's a development on the north end of town that has no water or sewer. It's all septic and everything like that on the very top there, which used to be the old Louts Orchard is the one that's referred to. But yeah, that's,
One entrance in and out too. They had one on the other
Yep,
end and
yep.
they went over to close them off or something.
yep,
So that's the big thing too. There's only one way in and out too.
No, that's no different than the one you're just talking about on the
Yep.
top of the block. There's only one.
Yep. So I mean, and that's in Winona County, so they got other things going on too, so. But they have
That's
that-
true.
But if the city goes ahead to do this, or how's, what's gonna stop them from in the future to doing something like that,
Mhm.
you know?
I think some of their concern is continuing to.
Right. If they can take over the proposed one in Pine Creek. Even though they have no connection, no city or sewer or water.
That's how I got here is because I was surrounded. And that was their rationale for forcing me in.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, that was what it
Yeah.
was. And they were looking for like 5,000 population this time. Well, they got it now, so they. They got what they needed to get their funding.
And if they do take the 4 lots that we're talking about. What are their regulations as far as septic system? Well,
Well, they'd be similar to what they have up in Louts Orchard there. I don't know. I think their slope thing, I thought was similar to ours. I know the township had a different than theirs back when I was there.
Unless they think they'll get their variance easier with the city than.
Well, I don't think we gotta look into that.
Yeah, so.
Even though
The township is concerned. you know.
Yeah, they're concerned about it, and rightly so.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
that'll set a precedent that if they're gonna do it here, they can do it
Anyway,
anywhere.
Right.
That's
They
called
already-
spot zoning, jumping, whatever.
Well, on that one planning commission that I was on, that guy had that house right down to the very steepest edges he could get. If he fell off his deck, he'd be down on the bottom of the apple orchard down there. I mean, I don't know what these people are thinking. And then-
Anyways, I wanted to bring that up, and then we had our land use meeting this morning, nothing really too exciting.
Yeah, the only thing is about the. You guys on the Parks Committee, we're gonna need to have a meeting. For the. Possibility of adding on 4 lots
Wildcat.
in Wildcat.
Oh.
And
look at me.
and so, and
well,
so,
that's a,
yeah, so it's gonna cost a little more money because there's a code change there. So you gotta decide whether which.
Oh, change being,
You gotta have a 400 amp service now instead of a 2. And
do you have to redo the existing or just anything new?
for anything new. So it's gonna be considerable amount of money. It's gonna be like $28,000 for 4 lots.
What's that? Brian had that information already?
Brian is working on it. He's
Oh,
working
okay,
together
right,
with the
that's-
water, the gravel.
Yep.
And the new electrical code that it'd be considerably more than what they first anticipated.
Oh.
So they might have to reassess what.
Okay,
what they
hasn't
wanna
been
do.
brought to my knowledge.
No, he just.
Oh,
He
brought
brought it up.
oh,
this
okay.
morning.
This morning.
Very good.
Comes
They
in the pipe.
He mentioned to Donna that you're gonna have a parks
Thank you.
That's about all we had at land use.
Okay,
Yeah, just that another thing too is there's that scam going around. People get
Still?
from a different, it's from a different outfit that's proposing to, has a purchase agreement to buy a chunk of land, whatever. And and the thing is that this one's different because on the letter they got, they said this all came from Houston County, all the information. So then Luke's been getting calls from people all mad because they're getting we're giving out this information, and no, we're not giving it out. It's public information that they're getting off Beacon. So we're not doing it. We're not proactive in doing any of this. This is being done by, what's the name of the outfit? Case.
Yeah, something Kate. Consolidate with Kate or something.
Consolidate with Kate or
Yeah.
something, properties.
Sounds so fishy. So do we need to put another ad in the paper saying that
Well, we already have one on the website. On the one from before, so. I guess it probably wouldn't hurt to try to do something again.
let people be aware that's issues going on and they,
I
hey,
could talk to Luke about that or Donna.
pass it on. That's it then, though?
Yep.
Great.
All I had was that zoning meeting the other night, that one pretty good. Some questions and things that they want to change. I think it was good that the land use plan people were online here and they got to talk with the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Commission. There was some good ideas there, so that was good. Outside of that, I got nothing else, I guess.
Okay,
who gets the Houston County annual conflict of interest and policy review statement? They go to,
yes,
that's,
I'll have to, I didn't print mine up yet. Okay, so we got those forms to do. A couple of things, just a reminder that tax day is coming up. So we let people, if you haven't paid your taxes, it's May 15th, right?
Monday, next Monday.
So get your taxes paid, so you don't pay that penalty. I did it once, that's enough. And then this coming Friday is Child Care Providers Appreciation Day, so. It's to thank those people who are trying to keep our businesses going by providing a child care. Anything to go to the cause? I don't see any public comment. Have anything to add from EDA or whatever? Okay, I guess I entertain a motion to adjourn. So is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, better not be any, all in favor, say aye.